His most recent publication is Discussing Stories and Images of the Church. Would you be talking about that too?
Well, we can mention it. There's some copies in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's his co-editor. Wow, with Laura.
And Tom.
So Laura MacGregor is a writer, an active academic, and the mother of 3 sons, one of whom lived with profound disabilities and complex medical needs for 2 decades. Laura completed her PhD exploring the life of mothers of disabled children in her early 50s. She's the author of several academic articles about mothering a disabled child and co-author of this book, Beyond Saints and Superheroes. The short story, The Invisible Woman, won the 2025 CPC Nonfiction Prize. So, for the pass of the time to you, Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to bounce up and down and hope we don't make you too dizzy with all of this. But so we'll take turns talking the slides. So I just want to first note that the study was funded by the okay. This study was funded by the generous support of the Louis Institute, which we received a project research grant 2021.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because I remember thinking when that book came out, it was like 5 years ago this whole thing started. And actually, I think the grant writing started like a year or 8 months before that. Yeah. So it was a long time ago, but it's important that we recognize that. We're so grateful to Louisville for their support of our work. And over to you, Laura.
Great, thanks. So we're going to go, we have a bunch of slides, but I'm looking at this group and I'm thinking we might try to get through them somewhat quickly because we want you to play and create some art. And so, pardon me if I move through them somewhat quickly. So I'm a qualitative researcher. I love stories. I think stories are really what connect us and how we learn. So my story is that I am the parent of 3 children, 3 boys. My middle son, Matthew, pictured here when he's about 16, was born with significant disabilities and complex medical needs. I knew that would be the case from birth. He had a very complicated birth. And at the time he was born, I was very active in my faith community. You'll notice that's past tense. I really thought my faith community would be a significant source of support and comfort as I navigated what I knew would be a complicated story. At the time, I was an occupational therapist, so I knew a bit about what the lives of families parenting children with disabilities could look like. As I'm sure you might have gathered, I was disappointed by my faith community. I felt very isolated and I had very complicated experiences with church. Ultimately, it led to my departure and to this study where apparently I had unfinished business with church and I wanted to think more about what I had lived through. Was I alone? Spoiler alert, probably not. And I wanted to start thinking about how we could change the story. So I decided I wanted to go to Louisville. And then I said, Alan, who was super busy, would you please join me?
So I knew Laura from first a class I taught called God and Theological Reflection. Some years prior, I had also served on her doctoral committee. So I knew something of her work. I knew how important it was. I knew that there's a lot I didn't know. And so thank you. I was excited to say yes to this question, to this invitation, and brought with it the question, where does Alan fit in this picture as somebody who's seemingly or presently able-bodied with immense privilege? What might I learn? I was also intrigued by a lot of things. I knew her work was important. I'd recently done some qualitative research. I'm trained as a systematic theologian. Our study for us usually means reading books and sitting in chairs and thinking deep thoughts. And then getting a job where we mostly push paper around. But at any rate, it was this qualitative research where you sit down with people and hear real stories of lived experience. I was very intrigued by that. I had done one project with qualitative research, and so the chance to do another one, there's no way I could say no. And so I didn't. So I came, and I'm so glad I did because there was a lot of things I learned along the way.
Thanks. I can't minimize the amount of work this added to his plate and how grateful I am. So I joked earlier, I have a background in occupational therapy. I've done a master's degree in the health sciences. I have this disruption with church. I get very annoyed with God, and I do what any typical rational person does. I go back to school and get another master's degree and a PhD. Yeah, because why not? And I joke that this is like a 30, 40-page literature review that I've now condensed into 7 lines. The stories of parents of children raising disabilities is a complicated story. And the research talks about the many stressors these parents often shoulder. They live with significant financial costs. Well, we have primary health care in Ontario and Canada. The cost of renovations, the cost of wheelchairs, the cost of equipment can be enormous for some families. We heard earlier about the cost of a church, modifying doors or modifying the tech. Families are bearing those responsibilities. There are employment challenges. Often a parent leaves the workforce. The more significant the disability, it is more likely to be the woman. Also, marriages tend to start aligning, even if they didn't begin that way, with gender norms once, and this is what the research is telling us, once we have a child with disabilities in the family. We know that parents can feel burnt out and isolated, that sometimes they sustain physical injuries. I injured my shoulder transferring my child. Sleep deprivation is a common theme, and they often feel very isolated. Many struggle with feelings of grief and loss, but I did want to add joy, because raising a child with a disability is also a deeply meaningful, significant, and joyful journey. And so it's complicated, and these parents experience this overwhelming sense of complication in their life in terms of this paradox where they're dealing with the very practical challenges alongside the sheer joy of parenting their child.
So I sometimes have, I have something that I call an elevator speech of what we learned in our study. And I call it a good news, good news story. The good news is parents are looking to churches as a place that offers spiritual support, prayer, community, and friendship, practical support. They look to the church as a place for spiritual sustenance and succor. The bad news is, by and large, churches are rife with ableism. Over and over again, the stories we heard from our participants were, and not universally, but by and large, tragic stories, some that left us kind of reeling. Some I'm still processing, to be frank. The good news, though, is churches and faith communities that are practice repentance and start to understand something of the gospel of inclusion and justice can have significant changes and become more meaningful and healthy places. I think especially as, for me, a kind of a learning moment was, it's not about charity, us helping you because you're disabled, but inviting you into the ministry we share together so that the church paradoxically becomes whole the more the church understands its own identity as one as a disability. So in other words, disability isn't a weakness that's brought to the relationship, but a strength and a gift. And the church that's disabled is the church that's whole. The church that recognizes its disability is that. Parents really want extended practical support. They want meaningful inclusion, willingness from the community to learn about disability. And they want unconditional friendship and true belonging. I can't tell you how many parents said, I really want somebody who is, will take a week I can meet to go for coffee, or I want my kid to be invited to people's birthday parties. That sense of true belonging, not kind of fake belonging.
Thanks. So, okay, this time we jumbled the slide up last time. So one of the things that really struck both of us as we were starting to enter this research journey was that the list of gifts that the church had to offer was significant, that this was a place that maybe families could find belonging and friendship and coffee and practical support and spiritual sustenance. Except the research, as we were reading it, even before we started the study, suggested that there was a bit of a disconnect, that maybe wasn't happening. And then we did the study.
That's your slide too.
Is it? Okay. All right. Then I'm just going to stay here. So the study we proposed and ended up doing was a qualitative research study. Are people familiar with qualitative work? Yes. Okay. So basically, we decided to go and listen to the stories of 20 parents. And we intentionally sought out people with a broad range of experience with church. We used the language of Facebook. So are you in a relationship with church? Are you not in a relationship with church? So we wanted people who had also left church. Or is it complicated? Invariably, it was complicated. Even people in our study, and bear in mind, it's a limited population, even people who attended church faithfully talked about a complicated relationship with church, which was really interesting. We then listened to these interviews. We recorded them and then transcribed them verbatim. Someone did that. We didn't do that, thank goodness. And this becomes textual data that we then study and we identify emerging themes. So we're trying to look for what are the stories we hear over and over and over again, because that's starting to tell us something. And because we have this varying collection of parents, they don't all love church, they don't all hate church. It's interesting when things start to sound very similar.
So the question, well, there were many questions, but one of the questions that we wanted to include was a question that a mentor of Laura's and a former colleague of mine, Tom O'Connor, used to do as a qualitative researcher. He'd invite the participants to describe the phenomenon that was being explored using the question of, can you given an image of that. So the question we asked people was, if you were to paint an image of your relationship with the church, what would that be? And so pretty much everybody had an image that came to mind. And so we used that as a kind of we actually used it for the little book, which is free, by the way. So make sure you grab one of the books. And there's two different books there. They're free for your grabbing, not the ones on the table beside the camera. Yeah, so just let us know. So those sort of structured the chapters in the book. But these questions, this question was quite evocative for us and quite fruitful. So we're going to walk you through three different images.
Great. I will admit, so I come from the health sciences. My first qualitative work was in the health sciences. So when someone said, have your informants describe something with an image, I thought, really? It ended up being the best question I've ever asked in any, I do it now. I've done it in all my research projects, my doctoral dissertation, and so on. It's great. So tell me what you see here. You're going to start doing work now. What do you see in this image? Just yell out. Tell us what you see.
Some isolation.
Some isolation? Okay, so people maybe are isolated. What else do you see in this image? A need to be rescued. Okay, what else?
The boat missing you instead of missing the boat.
Okay, the boat is missing you instead of you missing the boat. What else do you see? Anything speak to you?
There's a stability and a sense of helplessness.
Yeah, a sense of stability and maybe this precariousness. Okay, what else? Anything else? Distance.
Some sort of vast distance between person and people distance, possibly.
Yeah, so it's some distance, sure. Anything else?
Onlookers.
Oh, onlookers. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the first images that we heard. So Esther, this is interesting because we flipped now. You did this one last time. It's okay. We're doing different slides now, but that's okay. We can do it. Esther said, and everything is a pseudonym, of course. We've done everything to protect their identity. At first, I was pretty stumped, shared Esther, responding to the question of how she imagined her relationship with church. But then the picture that came to mind was a big cruise ship, and I'm a dinghy on the side. We don't quite fit in. We fit just outside of the ship. We've got the same goal, but we can't get there in first class. You have to do the other one now.
Okay. We can make it work.
Stand you both. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you see in this image?
Criticizing?
Sorry?
Criticizing?
Criticizing? Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, come right up front.
Switch. Sorry. Oh, of course not. Yeah.
Foster individual hugging or protecting the younger one.
So there's an image of protection. Thank you. Yeah, other images? Accusation. Yes. Thank you. I should mention the artist doing this is Wendy Newbury. So she's done all the art that's in our little study guide. Taunting. Oh, I don't like that word, but it's an evocative word. I think that really.
I get sort of the impression that if the child there is supposed to represent some with a disability, then they're pointing to, as in they're making a big deal out of it.
Right. Thank you. Good. Images are so evocative. I really find them powerful. So the outside the circle. Thank you. Yeah. She uses a lot of circles in these images. It's quite powerful, really. Oh, is it? Yeah. And so this is Joanna. I interviewed Joanna, and this was an astounding interview. She said, my image of the church is basically, if I had to picture it in my head, it's just a person with a pointing finger. And then she said, or at a different point in the interview, after church, they told me that my child's disability was the result of my sin, that I'm paying the consequences for it because of that. So I never went back. So that was a very painful thing to hear as a pastor. I'm also a pastor in a Christian church, to hear that somebody had heard this message in a place that should never hear something like that. I want to, that's a kind of a dark, but it's important to hear this because people are being told these things, right? This is why this work that we're doing together is so important. There were also some positive images too. So what do people, and I'll just quickly preface it by saying, by and large, the people who had positive images, the child was born into the faith community. So they were already members of the faith community. And so the family was known, although this wasn't universally the case, because that was also true of Joanna's story. But where it was positive, there had been a connection with the family prior to the disability becoming a phenomenon or a part of the life of the church. What do you see in this image? Warmth. Comfort. Love. Thank you. I love that. Yes. Yeah. I love the circle here. Like we were talking about that earlier. And she's got circles around circles. They're just, circles make us feel included, don't they? Like we're getting pulled into the image. It's very powerful. I'm also a big fan of bread. Anybody here make bread? Oh yeah. Yeah. Nourishing. There's the smell of bread in the house cooking. Oh. Yeah, it's heaven. Okay. Lydia, my church in the name of my city is like warm bread out of an oven because you share it. It's warm and so comforting, and it feeds you. If our relationship with church can be bread, there's something there.
All right. So where are we now? So we thought that, I'm looking at the time, so we've got lots of time. We wanted to continue to play with this idea of images. How much time do we have?
A lot.
We do?
Because
That's fine.
I'm suggesting that you guys can stay.
Okay.
We're setting up the team.
Perfect. We have tons of time.
We got things to do. So.
We got stuff to do. We'll keep you busy. We really liked this idea of playing with images. And so we wanted you to play with images. And we wanted in some ways to sort of harness the artist in all of us. So we brought a collection of art supplies. And what we invite you to do is to grab a piece of paper and individually or in partnership, if that speaks to you, create an image or a piece of art. So it could be poetry, it can be words, it can be whatever you want it to be. There's pardon me? There's clay, there's magazines you're welcome to rip up and collage. What is the new way forward? What is the image of church that you want to nurture? What is the place you want, the spiritual home that you want to see, or to imagine? See, even that makes me uncomfortable because it's an ableist idea that you want to imagine. So we invite you to grab some art supplies, and while you're at it, grab one of the books, and to create the image of church or faith communities that you would like to create. And then what we'll do, so maybe we'll give you about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll invite you back, and for those who are comfortable, we'll invite you to share. So have some fun. And for those who are listening at home, perhaps you might like to join.